Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It has been a long time since I've been here. It's been almost a month now since I last posted a video, which I am really sorry about. I've just not had the motivation, to be completely honest with you. It's all just been a little bit hectic, but I'm here now. So I made an Instagram poll on my story and I basically just started asking people about where they thought insecurity stemmed from. Then I got quite a few DMs after that asking me to do a video on how to not be insecure and how to be confident and all that, because apparently I come across as really confident. I do have some tips and tricks and I definitely have increased my confidence over the last year or so, but like I am not the most confident person, guys. Like that is just social media. Social media portrays a completely different image of people, and you know, you see one side of me, you don't see me all the time, so you have to bear that in mind. I just thought I'd put that out there because a lot of you seem to think that I'm like mega confident and I'm really not that confident, to be quite honest with you. So some of you might know, if you've seen any older videos of mine, that I did used to have an eating disorder, and back then I was very, very insecure. Did not like how I looked, did not like my body, did not like anything pretty much about myself. And yeah, I really struggled with insecurity back then. Whereas now I'd say that I am pretty confident, but like there's still parts of me that has insecurities. Like I think everybody will always have some form of insecurity where, you know, they don't like a part of themselves, or they don't like part of their personality, or whatever it might be. Like we're always going to have things that we don't like about ourselves. It's more about the way that you handle insecurity rather than having the insecurity, because a lot of insecurities can tend to feed into your actual life. As an example, I'll tell you something that I did back in the day. I was really, really insecure. I was in a relationship at the time. I basically left sixth form and showed up at the guy's house to basically check if he was cheating on me. Now, this guy had given me no reason to ever believe that he was cheating on me. The only thing that had caused it was me telling myself that I wasn't good enough and that he's obviously got to be cheating, you know? So I actually left college, told them that I had a doctor's appointment, and then went to his house without telling him that I was coming, and then went upstairs to find him fast asleep in bed. So, you know, it is definitely how you handle insecurity rather than having the insecurity, because it's okay to be insecure about certain things, but if you let it feed into your behavior and into your personality, that's when it can become a problem. The initial thing to do if you are struggling with a lot of insecurities is to figure out where it's come from. My initial thing was from being a child. I was just a generally sad kid. Like I had no specific reason to be sad. My relationship with one of my parents just wasn't there, and I used to get in a lot of fights with them. I used to get into like just big dilemmas where I just was sad all the time. I was a sad and angry kid. And as well, I had brothers. I was the only girl at the time, and they would just always like insult me, which is obviously what brothers do, but I was the youngest and I was very easily influenced at the time, being so young. So anything that they said, I was sort of like a little sponge, and I would just suck it all up basically and like believe what they said. They would always call me fat. They would always say that I was ugly, just like silly things. I mean, it's silly now that I think back on it, but at the time, to a young child, especially a young girl as well, it would make you feel pretty shit. And I always used to compare myself as well to like other family members. So that just kind of fed into the reinforcement of me believing that I wasn't good enough. So then as I grew up, I obviously just started to notice that I was quite a chubby kid, and after obviously being called fat so many times, I was like, I actually am fat. So I started not eating, and then that whole thing just developed into an eating disorder. Struggled with that, and then once I came out of that, I would say that the actual identification of where the eating disorder had come from was what helped me the most, because if you know where it's from, you can kind of unwind the process almost. Because like I know now that as young children, my brothers weren't saying it if they would have thought I would have got an eating disorder, or they weren't saying it because they genuinely wanted me to think I'm fat. It's more like just brother and sister banter, like that's just what brothers and sisters do, I guess. But yeah, I really took it to heart. I was a proper emotional kid. Everything that they used to say or do, I used to get really upset about, because my brothers were like my idols. Like I used to really look up to my brothers. I'd say the biggest turning point for me was when I started to go to the gym, because even though I'd identified like my issues and where they sort of stem from. I still had my own inbuilt impressions of myself, and I think a lot of us tend to like blame it on society or blame it on whatever it might be, but I think at the end of the day it's really us. We tell ourselves that we're not good enough, and nobody else can tell us that we are good enough where, you know, we will believe it. Because like if someone comes up to you and they say, oh, you look so pretty, but yet you've just been saying to yourself how ugly you feel and how ugly you look, them just saying that you look so pretty, it might make you happy for a few seconds, but like, are you really going to walk away and think, yeah, I'm actually beautiful? Because I wouldn't. I would straight away still be thinking, liar, you know? So I think like a lot of it is down to ourselves, and if you don't truly believe that you have a reason to be confident, then other people and other people's opinions are completely irrelevant, because that's not going to help. It might make you feel happier for like a few seconds. You know, like compliments on Instagram, compliments on whatever social media you use, they do make you have that sort of like boost of confidence for a very short-lived period of time, but then after that you go back to having your own opinions and your own self-talk that is telling you the complete opposite. You have to really fix that problem, and the way that I personally did that was, if I ever actually caught myself like insulting myself when I was looking in the mirror or something, I would actually like tell myself, hang on a minute, don't fucking say that. Like I'd almost have this little conversation with myself to pull myself back out of that mindset, because it's easy to get into a cycle where your mind automatically jumps to these negative opinions when you look at yourself. If you've done it for so many years, that's its automatic impression. If you start to challenge this and you start to change it, every time you look in the mirror, just try and not say something negative, try and point out something positive. You have to make an actual effort to do these things, because right now you look in the mirror, if you're insecure, you're not going to think I'm beautiful. Like, you're going to be thinking, oh, this and that is wrong, this and that is wrong. But if you actually just stop that negative self-talk and you look in the mirror and you point out one thing that you do, like maybe it's your eyes, maybe it's your lips, whatever it is, these will slowly add up and you'll start to be able to change the cycle and the habits that your brain's got into by telling you that you don't like these things. Just doing that alone genuinely really helps me. I never thought it would. I actually got therapy for my anxiety about my insecurities. And that was one of the things that she told me to do. She was like, if you ever catch yourself being negative, always pull yourself back and say something positive instead, because your brain genuinely does get into a habit of just being negative straight away if you've been so hard on yourself for so many years. So that is a good thing to start getting into a habit of doing. It is tedious, it's time consuming, and you might think it's silly to begin with, but trust me, it does work. Even just a little bit, it does work. And how great would it be to actually get rid of the habit of looking into the mirror and being horrible about yourself? The rest of it is just a mental game. Like, you have to really start to tell yourself things and believe it. It's literally the definition of fake it till you make it, honestly. It's things that you have to just remember, like, if there's something about your body that you don't like, there's gonna be somebody who does like that. It's like, life is so fucking short at the end of the day. Like, it really is short, and I just think I don't want to spend the rest of my life worrying about things that other people don't really give a shit about. Like, I used to constantly go on about how my eyes were different sizes, and like, why? Because nobody else cares. Like, nobody's looking at me and thinking, oh look, like, you know, one of her eyes is 0.2 millimeters smaller than the other. Like, it is what it fucking is. This is my face, you know? And you have to, a lot of life is just saying it is what it is. Like, you have to really just pick yourself back up and think, fuck it. Fuck it. If people don't fucking like you, then that is their loss at the end of the day, because 9 times out of 10, most of you are going to be great people, and if somebody doesn't want to be around that, then that's their choice, and you can't change that. And also think about the act of trying to force someone to like you. Why would you want to do that? If you had to force it to begin with, why would you want that person as your friend or as your boyfriend or your girlfriend, whatever it might be? It just doesn't seem worth it. Like, these people are clearly not good people if they're that shallow to think, you know, I don't like you because of this, or I don't like you because of that, because we all have fucking flaws and we all have aspects about ourselves that people might find annoying. They look at that and they might even tell you, yeah, you're fucking annoying, but they're gonna love you anyway. So as long as you have the right people around you, then you won't actually struggle with these things, because you won't be constantly worrying about if they like you. You won't be constantly worrying about if they're gonna cheat on you or whatever it might fucking be, because you will know that these people genuinely have a care for you. And trust me, I've had it before where you know, I've been with someone who I know would never ever ever go elsewhere. Like, they were happy with me, and that's, you know, I knew that in my heart. And if you don't feel like you know that in your heart, if you feel like your gut is telling you otherwise, then, you know, you're probably right. And that's just the be all and end all of it, really. I honestly just think that you should trust your gut at the end of the day. If something in your chest does not feel right, then figure out what the fuck your body's trying to tell you, because your body does not lie. Even if you have a feeling like, say for example, the example before where I said, you know, I went to the guy's house and checked if he was cheating, and that was because my chest was telling me something's not right, and my mind communicated that as he was cheating on me. Whereas, you know, you can misinterpret these feelings as something else. So even though you might think, yeah, it's because they're cheating or whatever it might be, it might not necessarily be that, but there's something wrong. And at the time, the thing that was wrong with me was that I was massively manipulated, and I'd just been cut down on a regular basis to feel like I wasn't enough. So my insecurity was there in my chest, and it was telling me that I needed to be out of that situation. It wasn't because he was cheating on me, it was because I should not have been in that relationship. I should not have been in that situation. And you end up having like a moment of relief. Like, when it happened, I felt relieved, like my chest felt light again. And it had been months since I had not had that anxiety in my chest about just waking up. Like, from literally morning till night, the only time that I got relief from that anxiety in my chest was when I was asleep, and it would start again as soon as I woke up. It would be straight back there, and it was honestly draining. I looked, and I was just so sick. I was really sick with it. Everyone at my college noticed. All of my tutors at college noticed. They were saying, you know, what is wrong, what's going on? And it was a whole mess. But that is what insecurity does to you, and that is how serious insecurity is, and why you really should make a point of getting a hold of it, because it's something that when you don't have it, or when you have a lot more self-confidence, your whole perspective on life changes. Like, my life back then was so negative, and my outlook on life was so negative. Whereas now, I honestly take every single person as, it's your choice if you want to be around me. I will make the effort if they put in the effort, and if they don't, I won't. You know, it's their loss, and that's how I see everybody now. If I'm ever, you know, with anybody, if I have any friends, if you don't want to be my friend, that's your loss. And that is how I will always see it from now, because I'm a good person, and I will always look after the people that look out for me, and I'm respectful, and around the right people, I'm a lot of fun to be around. So I honestly do believe that everyone else can either come or go, and that's up to them. I'm not going to hate anybody for it. I'm not going to dislike anybody for it. I will be aware of the fact that it's their loss, and it's their lookout if they don't want to be in my life. The next biggest thing that kind of changed things for me was going to the gym. I am big on going to the gym, as you'll see from all of my videos. I love going to the gym, and that is probably because it's been one of the most influential things on my confidence. Just kind of going and seeing how my body has changed, seeing that I can build the body that I want. In my eyes, I was never anything to look at the time, but once I started going to the gym, that was when my confidence sort of like skyrocketed right to the top. Obviously there's still things that I'm going to dislike, but I'd say that I am happy with how I look, and I am happy with me. And that's because as well, like, I think all the hard work that has gone into actually building the body that I have. I guess I do just really like how the gym has changed my body, how weightlifting has changed my body for the better. And the way that I see it is, I'm just trying to be the best version of myself that I can be. And as long as you've put in the effort, as long as you've put in the work, like, you should be proud of yourself, and you should be confident. It's just simple things as well, like when you're feeling down, like, dress up, make yourself feel good, uplift that mood, because you don't want to sit in that mood for too long where you're like being down on yourself, because it's really toxic. It really is really toxic to sit and dwell in how much you might dislike yourself, or how much you might dislike this and that and the other about your body. Like, it is really toxic. It's such a bad mindset and a bad cycle to be in, that you should do everything you can when you're having a down day to pull yourself back out of that mood. It can spiral very quickly. One thing that did definitely help me as well was to do a worry tree, which is another thing that I learned in therapy when I had it. And that is basically where you identify the thought that's going around in your head, because a lot of anxiety is you have this specific thought and your mind just sort of spirals all the different outcomes of this situation. So that's the initial thing, is to pull yourself back out of that cycle and identify the worry that is actually on your mind and ask yourself, what can you do about it and what can't you do about it? So like, say for example, you got fired from your job. That's the worry, and you're thinking, I'm never gonna have a job again. What about my money? How am I gonna pay my bills? Blah, 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 blah. All of this worrying, it's not doing anything. The point of this is to actually take this worry and do something about it, and see what you can actually do about it. And if you can't do anything about it, then you have to stop worrying about it. So say for example, the worry is you lost your job. You would then think, what can I do about it? So you can go on a website, you can make a CV, you can apply for more jobs. What can you not do about it? You can't have the job back, and it's done. Like, there's no point in worrying about something when you have already been fired, you've lost the job. The more productive you are about these worries, the better you feel about the anxiety, if that makes sense. Because then as soon as you've applied for all these jobs, you're going to walk away and you're going to think, wow, I've actually just done something about it. A lot of the time as well, writing things down, like writing your thoughts down, helps, because you'll find that a lot of the time you'll write things down and then the next day when you look at it, you'll think, genuinely be wondering, like, what on earth was the mindset there? Why was I letting myself think that? It's such a difficult video, this, because it's kind of like, I don't remember going from A to B. Like, I don't really remember being insecure to getting confident, so I don't really know the process. I just have experiences that have stuck with me that I remember had a little bit of an impact. Making a video on something so complex is really, really difficult for me, because I can't tell you to be confident. It's not as simple as that. You have to do it for yourself, and I can only help guide you, I suppose, in the steps that I took, and even those aren't going to work for everybody, so it's really difficult. You're gonna have to bear with me if there's a lot of rambling in this video. I think another thing that you have to really stop doing as well is like begging for people's attention or people's affection, because if they wanted to give it to you, they would, and you have to take a step back and think, they're not giving it me willingly, so maybe I should take myself out of the situation. Because the thing with me, like, I used to ask, why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? And it's like, if somebody is not doing the things that you want, the compatibility between you both is just not there, and you shouldn't be forcing anything. Like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I just think if you have to beg someone to do the things that you want, then they're not the person that you should be with or be around. And that's including both relationships and friends as well, like friendships, because a lot of friends can be fake. A lot of friends can, only use you when they don't have anybody else and things like that. And that's something that you should not be around. That's something that you should not put yourself around, because it's toxic. Everyone has a different perspective of what love is, and I'm talking friends again and relationships. We all love differently, and we all have a perspective of what love is. So like, some people might think that love is, giving someone so many gifts and like money, materialistic things, and then another person might think that love is just showing affection, like hugging and kissing and attention, text messages, like regular replies, blah blah blah. And then we all have different perspectives of what love isn't as well. So like, we might think that someone doesn't like us just because they're taking forever to reply, or because they didn't reply to a message every now and again. If they don't pop up every single day to talk to you, if they don't want to see you all the time, when realistically that person might genuinely care about you, but because that doesn't fit your perspective of what love is, you automatically assume that they don't love you. And this is where we have really bad misalignments in relationships and stuff, because I was with someone that was very much cold, and I'm a very emotional person. So whenever we would be together, it was that difficult because there was just a complete mismatch between the two of us. Like, I wanted text messages, I wanted fast replies, I wanted, conversation all the time. and then this person didn't want to talk all the time, didn't want to be around me all the time, just wasn't that into that, but they still loved me. And I think that's where it becomes a problem, because you, as like, if you were me, you would assume that that person doesn't love you, because your perspective on love is that if they did love you, they would be texting you all the time, they would be calling you all the time, they'd be speaking to you regularly, wanting to see you all the time, because that's what I wanted with him. I wanted to see him all the time, so I couldn't understand, if you love me, why don't you want to see me all the time, And that's not necessarily how love works. Like, people will always have different things that they like and different ways of showing love. And you really have to sit back and remember that actually, just because someone doesn't want to do something that you expect, it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't care about you. It just means that they have a different way of loving. And I'd say that a good thing to do at the start of anything, whether it be a friendship, whether it be a relationship, just ask them, like, what is it that you are like? Explain what you like, or explain that you don't like that. Just communicate with people and tell them from day one, like, what it is that you want, because that is the only way that they're going to understand when it comes down to it, when you start being over the top with your love, and they're going to be able to think, well, this is just the way that she is, and like, they shouldn't read into it too much. Like, tell them to tell you how they are. If they're like one of those people that just doesn't really want to be around you all the time, that's fine. That is absolutely fine. Like, I have loved someone and not wanting to be around them all the time. It can actually ruin things being around someone all the time, because you run out of things to even talk about. Like, you aren't doing your own thing. You aren't seeing other things to be able to go back to that person and talk about, oh, I saw this the other day. Oh, this happened the other day, because you're constantly with each other, and it's like, it can get awkward and boring and stale really, really quickly if you're constantly together. If obviously you aren't the type of person to be able to meet the other person halfway and say, I understand that that's your way of loving, and just communicate it, then your best bet is to find someone that matches you, someone that loves the same way that you do. You obviously know how you love, like, how you show your love, how you show your friendship, your kindness, whatever it might be. You have to find someone that is like that. And that's the only way that you're gonna be on that same wavelength when it comes down to communication. So like, if they start being silent, if they start being quieter, you're gonna know then that is because there's something wrong, rather than because that's just their way of loving. But that was a massive thing that also helped me with my confidence, because I started to realise that certain things weren't to be read into. Like, you have to take a step back and think, this person is a whole other person without me. I am not their life. I'm not part of them. Like, they love me, but they don't have to have their whole world revolving around me. And once I started to realise that, I also started to realise that, like, slow replies and being blanked or them not wanting to see me wasn't necessarily because they didn't love me. It was just because that's how they are. And that's what they want from a relationship. And that's okay. Like, if that's their life, if they want to have something like that, then they shouldn't have to compromise to make someone else happy. Same goes for you. You shouldn't have to compromise what makes you happy to make someone else happy. And that's what I'm saying, in that if you can't meet someone halfway, then you should just find someone that's more compatible for you. Because I think we blame ourselves a lot as well when someone starts being cold or someone starts being a little bit different. You start to pin it on yourself and saying that you're not good enough and you're doing something wrong, and you're trying to figure out what is it that you could have done, when really it's nothing that you could have done. It's literally just how they are. So once you start to realise that, it's a massive, massive help in your confidence, trust me. And another thing as well is to not get too attached to someone to the point where you start to not have a life, because I've done this before and it made me miserable. It made me really, really insecure because I was never going anywhere. I had like no friends because I'd pushed everybody away. And that's one thing that you don't want to do, because if your whole life starts to revolve around them and you've got nobody else to turn to, you're going to be henpecking them all the time. You're literally just not going to leave them alone, and that is exactly what I did. And that can push someone away like that. If you're constantly in their business, you're constantly messaging them, not giving them a fucking breather from you, they're going to end up being like, listen, like, fuck off, please. One key thing is to always make sure that you have your friends there with you. And if you haven't got friends, make some friends. Like, even if they're fucking online friends, for God's sake, just have someone that you can speak to other than, whoever it might be. Not everybody is constant, not everyone is going to be in your life forever, and if you place too much emphasis on how important they are to you, and if you place too much of your life like being revolved around being with them, when they're gone, you're going to have nothing, and it's going to literally kill you. Like, when I say kill you, I mean, oh my gosh, like it hurts. It fucking hurts. And that's because I lost all my friends. I was doing nothing that I enjoyed doing, and all I wanted, the only thing that made me happy or made me satisfied was being with that person. And that is so toxic. You do not want to be like that, trust me. You need to be going out, doing your own thing. They need to be going out and doing their own thing with their friends. And that's another thing that's important as well, because if they're not doing it, you're not going to feel comfortable doing it. So just make sure that you both have your own lives. I feel like this has kind of gone in the way of a relationship thing, to be honest, but so be it, because a lot of it is to do with relationships, I think. Insecurity anyway. But yeah, like, just make sure that you both have your friends, make sure that you both have a social life, because if you don't and you're relying too much on each other's company to be happy, it's going to really fucking ruin you when they're gone. And that's not to say that the relationship's going to fail, that's not to say that, you know, it's not going to work out, but shit happens and you never know. So just make sure that you are still doing your own thing. I think as well, the less that you go out, the more insecure you get, because the less that I went out, I started to really sort of hate going out, and because I didn't want to be seen by people, and that made me so insecure. The actual like deep part to all of this is that it's up to you how you feel about you, and there's certain things that you can do that will help, like, you know, positive self-talk, like getting dressed up and going out and, you know, making yourself feel good, being productive during your day, doing the things that you have to do is going to boost your confidence. Finding a hobby that is just for you as well, like the gym is mine, and that has completely transitioned my whole life. For you, it might be something else, you know, a hobby. Find something that is like your favourite thing to do and do it. But most importantly as well, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you really feel like you're struggling, like a lot, get some help, because honestly, having therapy was one of the biggest turns in my life. I didn't tell anyone about it when I got it. I did it all myself, and I was only, I think I was 17 at the time. So I was not an adult yet, and I was still able to do it anonymously, because I didn't want my family to know. And that's obviously silly, like, you know, if you are struggling, you should tell your family, speak to someone about it, but I didn't. I got an appointment with my GP, told them how I was feeling. I actually had a breakdown in the doctor's office. It was quite embarrassing. Started crying my eyes out to my doctor. Yeah, and then she obviously realised how bad it was. She put me on beta blockers, which is obviously an anxiety medication. I didn't take them because the side effects were way worse than what positives I gained from taking the medication, if that makes sense. So I didn't take them. I rode it out, waited it out. But then after about a month, I got a call back from a self-help clinic, which arranged phone call therapy for me. So it was CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, if none of you know, which is basically talking therapy. So you talk about things, you identify behaviours, and you figure out why that behaviour's there, where it's come from. It's really fucking helpful, really helpful, guys. And I do psychology, so I kind of know the ins and outs of like each different therapy. I would definitely say that CBT is one of the best. But mine was literally phone call therapy, so she didn't know what I looked like. I think she would call me once a week, and the rest of the week I would have like online stuff to do. It's all about changing how, like, the habits that your mind has gotten into, creating and reversing the negative cycles that are there, I suppose. And that's something that is really, really important. You might not think it's important, but trust me, it did the world of good. And every week we'd come back, have a chat on the phone. I'd tell her what's like been going on, how I've been feeling, talking about like my childhood to her. So explaining like things that I've been through at my childhood, and she would sort of identify these things as triggers. Yeah, it's brilliant. I can't recommend therapy enough, to be quite honest with you. I think everyone should have therapy at least once in their lives. Even if you don't think there's anything wrong with you, get therapy. And there's no harm in getting therapy. People are ashamed. Yeah, like, look, I hid it from my family. But I'm more than happy to come out and say that I did have it now, because it's something that genuinely turned my life around. And I don't regret it one bit. I'd definitely have it again, 100%. Most people are scared of going to an office and having to sit there face to face with someone. Like, there's other ways of having therapy. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can literally just have a phone call or do most of it online, exactly like I did, and it still helps just as much. I hope that this video has helped. I mean, I feel like I've sort of just been rambling on a little bit, but these are all just like random things that I feel like have helped me. I don't know if it's going to help anyone, but if it does, then I'm glad. If you did enjoy this video anyway, then please don't forget to leave me a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. There will be more fitness content coming at some point when the gyms reopen, but right now, your girl's not doing anything, so I'm not going to pretend like I am. If you don't already follow me on Instagram as well to participate in any polls or whatever, then go follow me. I'll leave it up here for you. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!